So if I was to wrap this all up with an estimate on total time that goes into each podcast, we're looking at 25 hours per podcast.
To do like a show, there's usually a designated light guy, there's a designated sound guy, there's a designated editor, but it's just me back here. It's definitely a lot. I just love it anyway.
I have had questions on the podcast and the workflow of the podcast, and I assume some of those questions are from people that may want to start their own podcast, or just give you a little peek behind what actually goes on in the podcast. And it's been on my list of ideas to discuss for a while. And then I think Noah posted, was it a few weeks ago, like a behind the scenes?
Yeah, it was just kind of just a short version of how it goes. More so on my end, not as much your end.
Yeah, so it was behind the scenes. Yeah, so we decided we're going to take you through the entire workflow, from the sponsor suggestions all the way into what you see when it's posted and after. So I'll go through this and then Noah will interject as we kind of go through. So it starts with a guest research, so the guest suggestions some of them come from the Discord server on the crew. Some of them come from a survey that we send out to the podcast guest. Some of them come through the Instagram post that I'll make a handful of times per year asking for suggestions. Some of them come through just when I'm going through Instagram and something looks intriguing to me. And I'll take all these people, and I've been using the same to-do list app forever, which is called Tate. And I just put them in the Tate thing for podcast guests and just populate it through. So kind of always, and Tom will have suggestions and our sponsors will have suggestions. And I just dump all these people in and throw them there because it's throughout the podcast. I want to try to keep it to where we don't have more than 3 to 4 week lag between record to post, right? That seems to be the sweet spot. Last year we got into a spot where it was kind of crazy. It was like 12 weeks, 16 weeks, something nuts.
Yeah.
And if you get down shorter than that, then you can run into issues because if somebody cancels, then you don't have a podcast, so you don't want it too close, but you don't want it too far. So we're still trying to figure that spot out. So while I'm doing that, before I actually put it into the Tate, I will look at the guest a little bit. Is this somebody I'd be interested in speaking to before I even, not a lot, but a little bit, not much at all, because I'll do that kind of going on later.
And I'll send Dave suggestions too.
Yeah, so
not as often, but sometimes if someone pops up, I'll just be like, oh yeah, here, check this out. And 9 times out of 10, he's heard of them already. On his list, but.
Yeah. So they come from all over, so I pump them in there. But I do like when I throw it out on Instagram and ask for the suggestions there, because a couple things, and when I see the same person multiple times, that can mean one or two things. It can mean they got a whole bunch of clients and a whole bunch of people in their gym that they'll tell, hey, go say I should be on the podcast. And when that happens, it's pretty obvious. Or it could be that there's one person, somebody really, that a lot of people want to see. They'll put them in there. So I do. And that becomes a pretty big list. So I have to export that out of Instagram. Then I run it through, it's been a long time since I did this. I need to do it again. I think I ran it through ChatGPT to be able to condense it through the data set to be able to pull the name. So once that's done, and then we get into the booking, I'll use Calendly, and that's got a workflow set up into it to where I'll send them the invite. Not everybody accepts the invite. So I'll send out a whole bunch of them at the time. The calendar's already set up with the open spots. They fill out their information. If they want to come, they pick their date. There's an intake form. It goes into the intake form, and then that will get emailed to me, and a text message will come to me. Then I'll take that intake form, I copy the information, I post it under record in Basecamp, which we use to track all this, put the date in there, put the intake information in there, and then just forget about it, right? The prep will start later, because when the next time I put this out, we'll be booking for September through December, because we're pretty much already set through August. I leave a little bit of room to be able to bring people in if they're coming through town and it's somebody we normally wouldn't be able to get, or if something really interesting is going on where the female gladiators were one that had I had it booked completely out, I wouldn't be able to put them in. I think we're going to film them in a few weeks to be able to come up with there.
I think it's June 12th.
Yeah,
maybe.
June 12th, where we were in situations before where everything was booked out so hard I wouldn't be able to put them in. So I have these dead spots per se to be able to put things like that in, because we do want to be able to stay current. The one thing we did learn when we had that huge gap between record and post is a lot of things that we might speak about on the podcast become not relevant because they're not going, like the enhanced games. If we were talking about that, the Honor Classic was a big one last year because I had to not talk about the Honor Classic because I knew it wasn't going to be able to post for 3 months, but yet they just competed in the Honor Classic. So that's a weird one, because when things like that happen and then it posts 3 months later, people wonder, is this a repost? They don't think that it's new.
Yeah, we had 9 podcasts last year for the Arnold week. We had Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
It was more than that. It was like 14.
Was it really?
Yeah,
I thought it was like 9. I think we had.
There was the week after too.
Oh yeah, I was only counting the week.
Yeah, because we had the week after, which there was like 3 on the one day.
Yeah, most of them were 3 days.
Yeah,
3 days.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
That was like when I first started too. I was only like a few months in, and I was like, "Alrighty, throw me in the fire. Here we go."
Yes, and we have to have times in there to where we can take a break too, because as you're going to see as we go through this, there's more that goes into this than you think, and I got to be conscious of he's editing extra content and other stuff as well, and you get too much in there, it's either going to get bucked way behind or he's going to lose his mind, which I don't want that, because the quality of the work is really, really good, and we don't want that to suffer because we just want to throw something out. All right, so where I'm at the booking calendar, then we'll come to the first round of prep. And this will be like 3 to 7 days out. When I start really preparing for the podcast, I have to be cognizant. I want to be in a time window to where I'm 95% sure they're not going to cancel and they're not going to reschedule. If I start the prep any earlier than 7 days out, then I run into a problem where I put in all the prep time, they reschedule, they cancel. We've had a couple not show up, and then I just wasted a whole lot of time. So that striking window of about 7 days is when I'll take the intake form. And this has changed over the past year because of large language models. So I have projects set up in Perplexity, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude. And Claude is the main one. I'll take their intake form, throw it in. I have the instructions for the project to pull everything that I need to pull. All of those give me the results. I throw it into my notepad that I use for Mac. Then I'll take all that shit that I have from that, along with what Claude Cowork is doing, and throw it all into Claude Cowork, which creates a dossier. Okay, so that used to be me doing it without the large language model, which that would have been 5 or 6 hours easy just for that. So that reduced it by 5 or 6 hours. So now with that, I'll start reading through it and checking to make sure it's the right person, that the timeline's right, all these other things are right. Once that gets corrected, then I'll take it, kind of streamline it down a little bit, make it into the dossier and it's what we post on Discord. I think we still post the show notes, which I rarely go by the show notes. But anyhow, once that's all done and the show notes are done, there's going to be 3 or 4 podcasts that they've been on before most of the time. Then I will watch or listen to those podcasts, which I'll do at like 2.5 speed, whatever the fastest speed I can do it to still hear what's being said. Right. So then that will go into there. That brings to me that will be like the day before. And then the morning of, I'm going to review that. I'm going to listen. I'll take all that information, throw it in a Notebook LM as well. And then Notebook LM has like a voice podcast that it creates. I'll listen to that when I drive into work. I'll look over everything again that morning, and then I'll physically write everything down in my notebook that are main points that I want to be able to bring up or things that I need to confirm, stuff like that. You don't see my notebook on the table anymore. It's just the iPad, because the notebook is just me writing things down so I can remember it. Once I write it down physically, I really don't even need to look at the iPad at all. And most of the time, the iPad is just the backup for the whole thing anyhow, because I know enough about the person through this process that I know where I'd like to go, what I want to talk about, and then just use communication skills to be able to get through all that. Shit. So I already kind of went through all this. The day of when they get here, I make sure that their YouTube bio and the sponsor links and all that are kind of what they're supposed to be. Noah can talk about that, because and then I put it in the date that it's going to post on. So it's in Basecamp for that. I get the guest bag ready, which we give every guest a gift when they come out here, review the notebook. Noah will start the extra content with the guest, which a week before I'll send them an email asking them if they're interested in extra content, and kind of brainstorm ideas, which normally doesn't work anyhow. We kind of just decide that the day of. And then Noah will do the extra content with them. After he's done with the extra content, he'll come get me, he'll eat, then I'll come out and spend half hour maybe, with the guest.
Yeah, usually like a half hour while I eat my lunch.
Yeah, just to try to make them feel more at ease. And so if I'm looking at all of this from a time perspective, before the podcast even starts, I have 4 to 5, 6, maybe it comes up to about 3 hours of prep total per hour filmed that I have before it even starts. And then the podcast will be 2.5 hours, so by that time it's like 10 to 12 hours of prep that goes into that. Once the podcast is over, I'll take the pictures that Noah took in the intro video and I'll put it into the shared drive. I'll double check to make sure the post date has the information that it has, and then wait for the podcast survey, which is going to be automatically triggered to go out to them to be able to come back in. And that's about it. So on my end, we're looking at 10 to 12 hours. And then at the end of every month, I'm going to review all the stats, and that's like 2 hours. I really shouldn't count that, because at the end of the month, I'm reviewing stats for everything. So it kind of goes into all that. And then there's, the extra work that go into the sponsors and everything like that. So I would say for me, with each person, it's at most, I'm going to use a bad number. Let's say at most I got 13 hours for each guest. And then while this is all going on, Noah's got his stuff, which I'll let him get into.
All right. So I'm excited to actually talk about this one. I post
Is the camera on you?
Yeah.
Good. I can get water.
Yeah, you can go to that. Yeah, it's going to be on me for a little bit. But so I'll talk a little bit about what basically goes on from my end. Once Dave does his, which he just explained. But I post a lot of behind the scenes stuff on my Instagram. So I've posted a little bit, but this will be a more in-depth kind of thing, how I go about it. So shooting the podcast, it's just me back here. It's just me in my little corner. We have 3 cameras going. They're all FX3s, I think. Yeah, FX3 from Sony. And yeah, they're all running simultaneously. We got a Blackmagic A10 Mini Extreme over here. I just kind of you can kind of see my fingers a little bit, hit the cut button, so it's editing on the fly. Our lights, we have P90L. We got 2 of them. They're big. It's just one on each side, so it's nice lighting. And audio levels, we have 4 to 5 road mics. Honestly, most of this equipment was here before I even started, so it was basically, I just got to walk into a super nice setup anyway. And we also have a slider that the camera I'm talking to right now, that one goes back and forth just to kind of add a little more dynamic to everything going on. Then I got the laptops here. The laptop you see right here is what was also getting displayed on the screen when you guys were watching it, the side by side. So I'm controlling that here. And then all the audio levels all over here, kind of hard to see. Making sure all the mics, all the audio is as best as it can be. So it's literally just me to make it all go on. And for shows like that are, I mean, our show I think looks very high end, sounds great, looks great on everyone's jobs here, but to do like a show, there's usually a designated light guy, there's a designated sound guy, there's a designated editor, but it's just me back here. So it's definitely a lot, but it's also I just love it anyway. Editing. So once the podcast ends, I immediately take the footage, go straight to my computer, just drop it on there. We also have a backup just in case something happens. And so once the file is transferring over there, let's see. Oh, a lot of having to maybe cut out bathroom breaks, or if somebody says something that they don't want out there yet, we can cut it out. Pretty rare we have to cut something out because we want it to be authentic, and basically anything goes pretty much. And then let's see.
Extra content before. Keep going with your workflow, but don't forget the extra content.
Yeah. Let's see what else there was. Oh, and then editing as well. Basically, you can kind of edit it from back here, just the cuts. That's it. What I do on my computer is I spice it up. I look for the hook, kind of like what is really going to attract the viewer based on either what I think's cool or something that's really relevant, or what the algorithm thinks is like working to get pushed. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to play the algorithm. We're trying to please the algorithm. We want it to be pushed so more people can see it, but also staying true to what we are. We don't want to be putting out clickbait. And yeah, then adding all the little titles you see, the intro to Table Talk, all that stuff, that's all gets put in post-production. The little Instagram pop-ups, all the YouTube things you see come up, like subscribe and all, just stuff to keep it going. For the crew members, you don't see all that because we want it to be more special for the crew. For the public, though, you get all the little pop-ups, the ads from our sponsors, which we also film on the side. So that's just a whole nother thing. But that basically just we film the ads, drag and drop. So a lot of drag and drop goes into it. It sounds easy, but it's a little bit more work. I can usually knock out a podcast in the first half of a day. So maybe like 4 hours or so. And then thumbnail. Thumbnail is probably, other than making sure the content looks good, the thumbnail is probably going to be one of the most important. It has to align with what we're talking about in the podcast. It has to correlate with the title, has to correlate with the description, everything. There's called SEO, search engine optimized. You can also fall into a trap where if you do it too much, YouTube sees that and they're like, oh, okay, well, this is not really that engaging. So it's trying to find that sweet spot of what is going to get YouTube to see it, push it, and what's also authentic to yours. They all kind of tie in together. And the thumbnail creation, we have a template basically that I save for the Table Talk episodes. Now I just have to change the text, change the picture of Dave. Each picture, I could use the same photos of Dave every single time, but I always take a screenshot of what Dave is wearing that day. And then the podcast guest. So it's just a screenshot from the video. So each thumbnail is going to be a little different, but all have the same structure. And then let's see. Oh yeah, a lot of, well, not a lot, but there have been a few comments about some of the thumbnails. Dave, I made an AI model version of him. We actually just shot it right over there. He just wore a gray t-shirt, just took different angles. That alone took like a week to get it to how I like it. It's just faster once it's made. It's just easier to, I can manipulate his face. I can make him do poses. Like there's one lecture video where you saw a little preview of it. He's eating spaghetti, like just looks dirty, just sauce all over him, just shoving spaghetti in his mouth. Stuff like that. That's going to attract someone. A minimalistic type thumbnail is not really going to attract someone. And also the color scheme, there's also a purpose for that. I hate yellow, but I did a color test kind of last year sometime to kind of see what colors are working through A and B testing. Oh man, there's actually a lot. The A and B testing, you can do like you can do 2 thumbnails, 2 titles, and YouTube will basically do a test. They'll push the A and B test, like title A to one people, B to the other, and then you can kind of see a percentage over time which one's working. So the color on the yellow background, that one came out on top almost every time. And the reason being is that it sticks out from the black and red that YouTube, basically their color scheme is in their interface. So yellow, even though I hate the color, it's working for us. So we're going to keep it until it stops working. And then publishing. There are 4 versions actually of the podcast. There's 2 audio, 2 video. So the audio for the members with ad free, audio for the public, and then same thing with the video. So there's 4 versions of that, and it goes out to multiple streaming services. We have YouTube for the main stuff. Audio goes on to Supercast. That's the members only. That also goes out early, like the members only video podcast. And then the public version that has all the ads, that goes on Libsyn first, and then it gets pushed to Spotify. And then on Spotify, we have to upload the video ourselves. It was a whole debacle when they tried to update it. So Dave and I were going back and forth to Spotify, like, take that feature away. We just want to add it ourselves because Spotify, we need it on there. So there's 4 versions of the podcast that basically gets done. And then finally, you got to do, well, this is just the podcast part. And finally, timestamps. Timestamps are important to make sure they're correct because sometimes people don't have 2.5 hours to sit down and watch a podcast. They want to see something specific. They can click on it. So having all the timestamps, descriptions, titles, thumbnails, all one package deal to try to get YouTube to push it as much as possible while remaining authentic. I'm getting like out of breath, but long forms, those are a little bit easier, but basically the setup for that, we have 2 Sony A7. That's
the extra content with the guests.
Yeah. So this is before. So like when Dave is getting his show notes ready, they come in usually about an hour early and it's just me and them. We just film. We got 2 Sony A7 IVs and we got the DJI mic, whatever version they're on, the little square one. You can sometimes see it on them. It's just a little magnet. And then 2 tripods. So that's literally it. Pretty simple setup. It looks very effective. Sometimes I hop in there. So we got 2 tripods. There's been quite a few now where I hop in. It's just easier for the person to point at. And Dave talked about it a little bit. It's pretty on the fly, kind of either they have an idea of what they want to talk about or we'll pick something that just comes up day of. So that also adds on to the editing time. And it also has its own thumbnail style, kind of like what you've seen with the yellow background. It also has its own little pro tips that pop up, which also like it just pops up. I use AI for that. It is based on the transcript, so it is what the person is saying. It's just said a lot better and more understandable at a dumbed down level, so anybody can understand it. Because sometimes people talk and it's super long winded. It just also adds to have the little pop ups in there that kind of just slide up and have like a little glass screen, just for something for somebody to go back on. That's just something I added, and we got a few comments saying it was very helpful, so we just keep that going on. And organization, I talked a little bit about that. Since we have so much content we're putting out, it's important to keep it organized. I have it down to a T. I've been doing it a long time, just throughout my career. Keeping it all organized by year, month, date, guest. Photos are its own thing. Videos are its own thing. And I don't need to say everything, but it basically just goes down from there. So it's just files and folders on folders. And if somebody asks me like, oh, can you pull up Train Your Ass Off December? Easy. Just go right back to a different hard drive. It's right there because you never know when you need it. It's always good to have backups as well in case something goes wrong or you overwrite a card, which I have done before by accident. Terrible feeling, but it is what it is. So it's always good to have backups so you can always pull in case you miss something. And then, also about the extra content, with the gladiators that came out, that was probably the most stressful, fun,
you were training too, though.
Yeah, I was training too. So like that was frying my brain and my body trying to figure out how am I going to do this all, because these guests are huge. Eric Boogs, he's been out here before, and I'm a huge fan. I wanted to meet him forever. So seeing that all alone just skyrocketed me. My mind was blown. But to do that, we had 4 mics, 2 cameras, 2 tripods. I didn't put a mic on me because I didn't have anything to add other than just me just in awe of what's going on. So that we trained for 3 hours. And then editing, I ended up staying late. I mean, I already stayed late that day anyway. It was like a 12-hour day, but by choice, I was like, I want to get this done. We kind of have a quicker turnaround time while the show's relevant on Amazon. Well, it should always be relevant, but while it's kind of on top for its category, that video to make sure everyone's mics were all lined up, everyone can be heard, cutting out everything. I left in most of it. There's some that got cut out because either the audio was too far away or the camera was just like so shaky. That video alone took 10 hours. I was kind of keeping track of it because I'm very proud of that video too. I love how it turned out. It came out exactly how I wanted. It got great feedback. But that video alone took 10 hours. Normally the long forms aren't that long, but something like that's definitely going to take a long time. And then the last last part of it, keeping tabs on what's basically on in the fitness world. Dave and I are always talking about it. I have questions for him about fitness, and same with Tom, and also just what's going on, whether it's in the powerlifting world or the bodybuilding world or the influencer. Like I watch all of that, just kind of see what they're talking about. Like Diamond Gym, they popped off. Then I told Dave, I was like, we should do a segment about Diamond Gym. Then he said, oh yeah, perfect segment was a repost we did of Zach Evanesh. This was before I got here. He's come out once while I was here, and then however many times before I got here. They talked about training at Diamond Gym, and that video ended up being a very popular video for that year. I forget. It was one of the top 3 videos, I think, based on engagement and views. So stuff like that. Like if we weren't keeping up on it, Dave keeps up on it, I keep up on it. If we weren't paying attention to that, we wouldn't have gotten that engagement or for people to see it. So keeping up on what's going on. And then same with the American Gladiators. Dave and I, we had to watch the show. We can't just have them out here and be like, oh yeah, how'd you do? Like we have to kind of know what's going on. And there was six or seven episodes.
I had to watch it twice because I thought we thought it was just Boogs.
Yeah.
So the first time I'm going through just looking at his stuff.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, the other 2 are going to come now.
Oh yeah. That's right. At first it was just supposed to be Boogs. And then he's like, you mind if I bring 2 other people? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Dave watched it a lot. I watched it as well. So that took time. I mean, it's still fun to watch, but it just took time. But I think and then just kind of keeping up what's working on YouTube. The algorithm changes on all platforms. It's always changing, and keeping up with the AI, the changing, utilize it to cut down on our editing time. Because as Dave said, and I've said, it takes a long time. Before, even when I started, I didn't know much about AI. I had to edit some podcasts that were shot before I was even here, so I had no idea who the person was, no idea what the podcast episode was about. So it would take me 2 days maybe to do one podcast. Now I can do it start to finish within 4 hours. So AI definitely, we all utilize it here to help. And I mean, there's not a lot of employees here, and we put out a lot of great equipment, content. People love training here, and it's a small business run by, I don't even know how many people. Not a lot, not like a big company, but yeah. So I think that's kind of, man, I'm out of breath thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. But yeah, that's basically start to finish the podcast. And then all the Instagram stuff, that's also done by Dave and Naomi. They do their own thing. I don't have to worry about that. But that's a whole other thing on its own. But I'd say that's pretty much start to finish how the podcast goes.
Yeah, a couple things I forgot were when the podcast posts, I'll make a post on my Instagram, just thanking the guest that, AI does kind of help with that. That's basically, I have to wait until it posts, then I'll take the transcript, because by the time it posts, we've already done 3 other podcasts. I kind of forget what we talked about. So I'll throw it through to kind of give me a summary, and then post that picture with the behind the scenes photos, which Noah's taken during the podcast, putting into a shared drive, with his phone, just to be able to have something. And Naomi's actually posting the intro video that we filmed the day before it will post. If Tom is on the show, the reason I'll have Tom on the show, the biggest reason I have him there is, as you guys have seen, through the Discord community and the videos that he does, he can go very, very deep in a lot of topics. And there's a lot of topics. There's already a lot of topics I have to refresh my skill set on before a guest comes out. But there's also a lot of topics that I really, like peptides is a great example, I really did not know shit about. And so I don't know where Tom does. So I'll bring him in to be able to help with those. But with a lot of the topics that I'll bring him in that I want him to go deeper on, I do spend quite a bit of time learning about that topic, but not so much, because I don't want to lose the ignorance with those topics, because you guys most likely can't have the discussions that Tom would have with an Anthony Castor or one of the other peptide guys. You're going to tune out the same way that Noah's probably going to tune out and that I would tune out. And if I bring my skill set up to that level, and don't have that ignorance, I'm not going to be able to pull them back and kind of bring them back in to ask the questions that you guys would want to be asking. So with Tom, because of the wealth of knowledge that he has, he can fill that gap. But then my role during those is to be able to know just enough to be able to pull them back and ask the questions to be able to keep you guys interested. Otherwise, especially when you get two people that are really, really passionate about something like that, you should hear these freaking guys speak when you were off camera. It's like a foreign language. It's like they're speaking like French, and I don't know French. It's like the craziest shit. I mean, Noah and I are like, the hell? So I need that ignorance for that. So I'm sure that the clips, the clips get posted, throughout, and that's kind of automated to a certain degree. The AI helps with that we don't know if they help or they don't help. It's just whatever, at this point they don't hurt, where before I think they were hurting, but they don't hurt. And it's not that big of a deal. So if I was to wrap this all up with an estimate on total time that goes into each podcast without putting in, if Tom has to do any preparation, which I know he spends time doing it because he'll have 3 or 4 pages of handwritten notes, we're looking at 25 hours per podcast that goes into getting it posted. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about, right?
I didn't really think about it for... Man.
No, it's a lot, right? So yeah. It doesn't have to be done at this quality in the way it is. But a lot of people that will ask, hey, I want to start a podcast. I don't think they really know what goes into that, because what we didn't mention is shit happens all the time. All the time. Last week it was this stupid deal with Spotify. Right. Or
that was a nightmare.
Yeah. Freaking headphone doesn't work. There's shit going on all the time. Where Noah's real good is he doesn't get stressed. We'll figure it out. And we just figure it out. So it's not like everybody's running around in a panic. He might have when he first started, but now it's just like, it'll get figured out.
Oh yeah. I was terrified when I first started. We had a guy back here with me teaching me, and I was like so afraid to like press a button. And if I accidentally hit the wrong button, I'd be like freak out. But now I'm just like, it's a podcast. There's people sometimes deadlifting and just training in the background. Like, people love it. Like, it's okay if there's a little slip up. So I'm not stressed about it.
No, there always is. And there's always going to be hiccups. And the AI is, I don't want to say it's hard to learn. It's worth the time to take a deeper dive into whatever model you're going to use and start using it alongside of whatever your workflow is. It's worth 40 hours maybe to kind of get acclimated to it.
Yeah, I think it also, each one is better for certain things, like Gemini image creation. That is still, I think, on top. So that's what I'll use for like the thumbnails and setting up like gems, basically like projects that already have stuff set up. So I'll use that for that. But for other stuff, maybe like a little bit more research based, I'll use chat. Sometimes I use both. Like I'll use chat to prompt what I want to make an image, put it in Gemini so Gemini understands what chat's trying to say.
Yeah, but before that, just to get acclimated to it.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe a week.
Yeah, it's worth watching because it's not going anywhere. It's basically here to stay.
Yeah,
so it's like
and
either
I think
you learn it or you get left behind.
Yeah, and I think where people will screw up is they just try to use it for workflow, like asking questions, but they don't take time to just go a little bit deeper. Where if they spent a couple of weeks just trying to go deeper, like how to make a project. Things that to us are kind of like simple now, but at first, we didn't have any idea, and once they do that, then it's just keeping up, with the updates that come through. And while if you're on the internet or on Instagram or on YouTube, the updates are not as dramatic as every week's YouTube AI update goes. So you can feel like, oh shit, I'm being left behind. Then when you go to try to do what they say to do, it doesn't work. But it's worth setting the base, I guess is what I'm saying. Because once you set the base, it's not that hard to keep up on, whatever's kind of updating with that. With that being said, thank you guys. We're done.